Hi, I'm Keely and I'll be reading What If We Breathe Through Our Skin from the 2021 National Flash Fiction Day anthology. What if we breathe through our skin? When he's 13, my son, who has his father's strong jaw and the parts of me that matter, turns into a frog. It's his skin first. It sheds in large, coin-sized discs. I pull off the bigger, drier flakes and bathe the sores beneath. He's startled by the patches of green that radiate like sun on stained glass. Maybe I have to bury myself, like an African bullfrog, he says. I picture his body blanketed in the clay-rich soil of our garden, hidden in the damp earth. It's a mother's duty to shade her child from the midday sun. Days before, his father had reappeared and hopped over our circle of salt without complaint. He had promised he would see his boy, and I promised he would not. Males guard their tadpoles until they spawn, my son continues. Our home is filled with amphibians, and he knows them all. Their shape and size, the perfect ambient temperature for each. My boy is smart, but he understands little about the dangers a father can bring. Colour that bright, you're meant for the rainforest, I tell him. With his newly lengthened tongue, he catches a housefly, curling the insect into the fleshy pocket in his cheek. All is calm then, until his fingers and toes begin to web. He shows me the membrane that's formed between his digits, as he clutches crystals of tiger's eye and serpentine for comfort. It's time for you to swim, I tell him. At the pond's edge, he pauses before slipping in and under. For a moment, there is nothing but mirror stillness, and I pray he'll surface. But I needn't worry, for he's silk in the water. Pondweed and murk yield to the strength of his long hind legs. After this first dip, he submerges himself, daily, for hours at a time, and I scan the woods surrounding our cottage, checking for any shadows. His father returns one evening, drunk as I knew he would, tenderizing the doorframe with his fists. I know you're there, you goddamn witch, he caws as we hide. I tell my son, keep low, and he does. The only light, the iridescent haze of the terrariums reflecting in his golden domed irises. Cowed on the rug, he seems smaller than ever. I have cuttings of borage, sage and wormwood, but they aren't enough. The shouting continues. I begin to chant and the glass tanks rattle. Frogs chirp and yammer. My son places his hands against the space where his ears once were, and I watch as parts of him contract and distort like stop motion. Yet the thing I dreaded, his bones cracking, is tiny. Fractures blooming on an eggshell before his bones reknit. They crumble, shrink, and reform. You are so beautiful, my boy, I tell him when it's done. His skin, now free of its scabs, is slick and smooth, his body marbled with green, so perfect he could be carved from jade.